Hey, what's up? This is Matt Dietz, and this is Agency Launch. This is the show where I talk about what it's like to run an insurance agency. I talk about staffing and customer service and marketing and sales. And if you can do those four things well, you'll be successful. All right, so in order to help you do one of those things well, we are in an interesting market right now, and they are encouraging agents to pivot and look at other types of coverage to sell. So if you text me 208-213-8809, I have a free resource to help you get your foot in the door to writing commercial insurance. I didn't write commercial for like 2 years. I wish I started sooner, but now I do it really well. So I'm going to tell you what you need to know to get your foot in the door with commercial. So text me commercial to 208-213-8809. All right, on with the show. Hey, what's up? All right. Hey, you know what? Happy New Year. This is my first podcast of 2024. So after a couple of weeks off, we're back at it, and I am wishing you a prosperous and exciting year. I know we're in for another bumpy one, so hang on, and hopefully, we can get through it together, and I can help you out a little bit. So I wanted to share a strategy or a tactic that I learned many years ago that was really invaluable. And it came up when I was working with one of the agents that I coach, and he's onboarding some new producers and some new people. And I remember going through some training when I worked with a different company. I worked for Enterprise Rent-A-Car in a previous life, and I worked there for 3 years. This is a tough job, but the phones were a really important part of that company back in the day. We got all of our reservations essentially by answering the phone. So I still have some PTSD from the phones, because the rule was if it rang more than twice, like, you'd be in trouble. So and the phones were hopping and they were hot. And so if the phones, so you sometimes had to throw someone on hold. Can you hang on a sec? Because this is about to ring a third time and I'm going to get in trouble. Like the phone's still third phone ring for me still gives me the jitters. Anyway, so we were taught on, how to handle the phone, how to place reservations on the phone, how to upsell on the phone, how to get the reservation. And so we did an extensive amount of phone training. One thing that they did that was very effective was, once in a while, they would bring all the branches together, like 8 branches in town. They'd bring all the branches together for a quarterly meeting, and it'd be after hours. It'd be at 6:30 at night, because our hours, we'd work 7:30 to 6 o'clock. It was long hours. And then we'd go in and we'd have another meeting, but we'd have a training, and there'd be 50 people in this room. And the city manager would be like, all right, we're going to do some training today, and we're going to listen to some calls. And everyone just gets kind of white as a sheet, right? They're like, oh my God, what if they listen to my call? What happens if I mess up? What happens if it was a bad call? What if I screamed at someone on the phone or something like that? But they're recording all the calls. So they would go over maybe 5 or 6 calls, and they would give you direct advice on the things that they'd compliment you on the things that you did well, and they might teach you some things that you can do better. So once I knew that they were recording calls and that there might be a call of mine used in a training session, my mindset shifted radical. I wasn't doing a bad job on the phones, but I was much more intentional moving forward now that I'm on the phone, now that I'm being recorded on the phone, because you don't want to look like a fool in front of your peers. Okay. So it was this positive peer pressure that was used. And it felt great. If your call was taken and you did everything right, man, it felt great, to be in front of everybody and, be somebody or have a call that people could learn from. So what I'm suggesting is, if you record your calls, which you may, if you have a VoIP system, we use NerdPhone, and we pay the extra to have our calls recorded. And there have been 2 times in my career in the last, since I've had NerdPhone, where we've had to pull calls to make sure that I wanted to listen to. Okay. But you can use this for training purposes. So if you have a VoIP system and you can record your calls, it's great for E&O purposes, but it's also great for training. So what I suggested to this newer agent who's onboarding all these people, I was like, you should record your calls, and once in a while, maybe bring some, like, especially he's doing a lot of cold calling right now and a lot of outreach like that. So what a great opportunity, to listen to the calls. Also, the agency owner, it's a great way for you to find out what they're doing and what they're saying. Are they doing what you're asking them to do? Are they giving up? The other thing that Enterprise taught me was to take 3 no's, per sale. And we were trained extensively because we had to sell the damage waiver when we're in front of people, when we're renting the cars. And so you have to take 1 no. You got to go back again and take another no. And they expected you to take 3 no's. So like, that's another thing that you can talk to your people about for cold calling. Take 3 no's, work that script, make sure that the first objection is handled properly. You can get them to say no 3 times. You're just going to up your closing ratio. You're going to up your quoting ratio if you don't just give up after the first no. Okay. So that's something that you can train on when you're listening to phone calls, and somebody says no, and your producer says, okay, well, thanks anyway. You can pause, all right, what's a different way that we can keep this call going longer? What's a retort that we can give, to keep them on the phone and to take another run at earning their business. So listening to calls, so you can do it in a number of ways. If you have a team, it's totally cool to sit down and use this as in a group and be like, all right, we're going to listen to some calls, just like I went through with Enterprise, because the teams, they're going to be a little bit nervous, but at the same time, if they know that you're recording calls and you are going to be playing them in front of their peers, they're going to be more dialed in moving forward on the phone calls. I promise. Okay. They're going to just try a little bit harder, and that's what you want. Okay. So squeeze the extra juice out of your team by doing this. Praise the calls that go well. Absolutely. Just love up on them big time. And then just give some good corrective advice on things moving forward. If somebody, you can hit pause, you can say, you can ask the team, say, is there something that maybe she could have done differently in this situation? Or what do you think she did well in this call? It can be a very productive way to train. It's a little bit more visceral. It's a little bit more in your face, but it's real life. Okay. This is what's happening in your agency. And I think it's a great way, to really sharpen the skills that they're going to need, moving forward if they're doing this kind of work. It can be done for customer service calls, billing calls. If they got into it with a client, you can say, what's a better way that we could have maybe handled this situation, or so it's a great tool to use. If you've got it, use it, once a month, sit down, pop some popcorn, whatever you need to do, and have the meeting. You can also do this in a one-on-one situation. If you're doing one-on-one, say, hey, look, we're going to listen to some of your calls, and, why don't you tell me what you think of the call? Why don't you tell me what you think you did well? Why don't you tell me what you think you could have done better? It's a great tool to use. I would just recommend that you do that, especially if you're recording calls already, like you've already got them. So I think you're missing an opportunity to get your people up to speed faster if you're doing this. So there you go. That's what I got for you today. So record your calls and then critique them with your team. All right. My name's Matt. This is Agency Launch. You can find me all over the place. I'm very active on LinkedIn. You can find me on Twitter and Instagram at Dietz Agency. Don't forget to send me a text at 208-213-8809 and send me the word commercial, and I will hook you up with how to get an asset from my master program on how to get your foot in the door writing commercial. There you go. Thanks a lot, you guys. Let's have a good year. Keep up the good work.